Hello everyone, and thanks for coming back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the Meteor75 from Betafpv. Yay, we have a new and improved canopy. And inside that canopy is the M01 all-in-one camera and VTX. Motors are 1102 18,000 kV, 40mm Gem fan tri-blade props. The all-in-one board is 1 and 2S compatible with an F4 processor, and it has a 5 amp ESC. Features the new BT20 connector, foam to keep your battery secure in this tray. Comes with one 450 milliamp battery, and one adapter cable for charging. On my scale, it's 30 grams on the nose. And with a battery, it's just over 44 grams. We're gonna look at two flights. We're starting off, obviously, with the inside flight. You've seen this before. Well, at least if you're not new to the channel, you've seen this before. So I'm gonna run my typical circuits and tracks. And I think the thing that you saw right there was a little bit of a PID tune issue. It flies well, and I think the tune is reasonable. But that was one thing that I noticed, that when I went into kind of that yaw sideways slide, that this one, it was either trying to grab the air and it didn't have the power to, or we saw a little bit of an oscillation there where we need to work on the PID tune just a touch. And maybe it's just not going to come out. That's a possibility. So it does come with a custom PID tune, and you shouldn't have to tune it, or at least you shouldn't have to tune it to make it fly any differently than what you see in my videos, because I didn't tune it. This one, unlike the Happy Model version, does not have an integrated VTX to the board. That may be a good or a bad thing, depending upon your point of view. So we've got a separate VTX, and we have a different camera, and the canopy is also new. And I am so thankful, after all these years, that we can finally set the old canopy to rest. That was probably a year overdue or more. I know the old one saved weight, but man, they just didn't last. They didn't protect anything. So now we have this new one, but on the other side of it, we don't have any camera angle that we can get. It comes with one camera angle, and that's all you get. I think that's kind of a flaw, and they need to go back and look at another design. I think it would be really, I know they like to stay with their brand, but I think it would be relatively easy to stay with their kind of design and make it robust, as well as give us the ability to change camera angle. I think that's something that's very important for many people, regardless of whether you're flying whoop or if you're flying something that does not have whoops or prop guards on them. One of the things that I talk to people all about is, you know, you can always try by going naturally faster by just tilting your camera up, and in this particular case we can't do that. We can only fly with this particular camera angle, but because it is super wide, I'm flying it just fine. I'm getting around my house. I'm carrying some good speed. I think I'm doing fairly well in my typical fashion when I fly inside the house on a brushless whoop. So maybe it's a minor thing and I'm making a big deal out of it. You tell me, how important is camera angle to you? Leave a comment down in the comment section down below if camera angle is something that you look at and is a determining factor in your purchase. It's not often that I fly these outside, but because I got a couple of days where the wind was really low and the weather was actually reasonable, unlike this week, I did fly this one and one other one that I've got outside. And so you get a little bit of a demonstration if you don't have the space inside to fly, or maybe you just want to know how it would fly outside. Maybe you're looking at this as your first quad, then this will give you a little bit of an idea. There is a slight breeze, but it's not much. I would say it's somewhere around 3 to 4 miles an hour. And you probably, sitting there, I don't recall feeling it all that much. Every once in a while I would hear it, but I don't recall feeling it. Of course, I'm up close to the house sitting in that chair. So we're just going to do a little bit of outside flying. And something that you'll notice when we fly outside is that even with the limited camera angle that we have, when we get after it much, that the battery sags. Then you get the low voltage warning on your OSD. So you kind of have to manage your battery. Oh, hit that weed stick thing sticking up right there. All right, no worries. Nothing caught the props. That's something I don't recommend. You know, with a 5 amp ESC, in theory it shouldn't happen, but if you think you've got something in your props in one of these flight controllers that doesn't have high amp rating ESCs, it's best to just go pick it up. I had other flights on this, and so for purposes of doing a review, I figured I could use one of those other flights. Unfortunately, I only had 2 batteries that are appropriate for this, 450 milliamp batteries with the BT2 connector on it. So I had to fly 2 at a time. I did fly I've got some 350s that I transitioned to BT20. So I was able to fly those as well, but I wanted to make sure for the review purposes I was flying the recommended battery that they do ship this with, so you get an idea of what you'll get in your package if you were to order one. And oftentimes, as is the case with me, when I'm flying a whoop outside, I'm kind of drawn to the kids' swing set. My kids don't really play out here all that much. You know, they're getting kind of, they're getting a few years on them, so swinging and playing in the fort isn't something that they're all that interested in. They'd rather be with people or with books or with their technology of some sort. But that's the kind of thing that I really enjoy when it comes to flying outside with whoops, is that close proximity, kind of zinging in and around things. I think it was about a year and a half ago, maybe 14 months ago, I may have posted that video. I really don't recall, but at one point in time where our girls swim, they have a really nice jungle gym with tubes and stuff, and it's really colorful, and they've got a lamp out there, and they've got a nice place for me to sit. And so when the girls would swim and I would take them and wait for them, I would take a hoop and fly out there. So that's a good time. It's something that I enjoy, and you'll find that this flight doesn't last all that long. I think they advertised 3 to 4 minutes of flight time, so I technically am getting 3 minutes. Inside, I didn't really get 3 minutes. I think it was 250 is what I got inside, or maybe it was 245. I forget now already. But we're going to come in and land, and that will wrap up our flight portion of the review video. So outside of how the machine flies, which I may have not covered greatly, one of the things that I thought about when I was flying this is one of the questions that's going to come up is this faster or as fast as the Mobula 6? And that's really hard to tell because the field of view will give you a different perception of speed in the goggles. So I never saw this whizzing through the air because I was always in the goggles. My perception is they're probably somewhat close to the same speed. I could be way off there, but that's just my perception. Another thing I thought about that people might be asking, because the Mobula 6 is such a popular product right now, is how stable is it? How does it fly? And I would say that, again, they're relatively close, but this is a bigger platform. A bigger platform that's well-tuned should be very stable and give you a nice, solid platform to which to fly. And I know that sounds kind of convoluted now that I say it out loud instead of just in my head. But what I mean is that it shouldn't be real jittery on the sticks to where you feel like you get out of control. It will keep itself, not itself, but it will have a relatively stable base that if you're not real jagged on the sticks, that it will fly fairly well. And I would say it'll fly a lot like the Mobula 6 does. It's just a bigger platform, and therefore it'll be a little less agile. A little, I'm talking tiny bits here. And of course, your ability or your desire to get through small gaps with a bigger platform may not quite be there. I didn't fly it a ton. I would suspect I maybe had 15 or 16 flights on it, and I had a few out there in the cold. It was about 45 degrees on that particular day, and everything's in good shape, so no damage to report there. And as you can see here from their canopy redesign has a lot to do with this camera holder, that once you put your camera in here, that you then slide it up in there, and then you take the screws that they come with and you zip it down, so you can see that's why we don't have any camera angle that we can adjust. I just think that needs to be redone. I think from this standpoint they could redone it relatively easily. Take these out, put holes in here, put holes in there. I think that would make, you know, you might need to make a little bit of a mounting hole to thicken this area up so that the screws don't get real loose if it bounces around or something, and you may need to thicken this up just a tiny bit, but I think it's fairly doable. They've already got the design here. They just need to change the mold a little bit. Of course, I'm not a designer, I'm not a molder, so I could be saying things that are much more tricky than I think they are. I'm a believer in having adjustable camera angle, and if you are too, hopefully you've left a comment down in the comment section already. One thing that could determine whether you're in the market for this is, are you willing to either transition your batteries over to the BT20 connector, or are you willing to snip off this connector in order to put on a PH20 connector for your batteries? So it's something you need to think about, is with that specialized connector, or that new special connector, I don't know how to frame that exactly, you may have some work to do depending upon how many batteries you have, or you're going to have to replace a whole bunch of batteries. That's my review of the Meteor 75. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the section down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.